One.
Thank you. So we're on, let's get it over here. The bottom of Yuram base. Yeah. So we're talking about fasting. Is that true? What was Sugi before talking about? Some Agav came about Makam Shemasan, Makam Shemasan, and yeah, in general, we're talking about the halachas of kindness. Now the Gemara goes off on a tangent a little bit. 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Yudam Rav Chia. If someone's going on the road, and nowadays people go on the road, they're going in a car. The Muslims assume say maybe that's different. But if a person's walking on the road, long journey, so he shouldn't eat more than a person would eat in a famine. When there's a famine, people don't eat. There's no food. The Muslims say soon, even if there is food, also it's not right to eat. But simple pshat, when it's a fast, so people ration their food. They're not of a lot. So a person should limit himself on the road as if it would be a famine. My time, why not? Why not eat a lot on the road? So it seems to be my focus. What the reason is here in Babel, they translated the reason why a person should not eat is because ma'ayano. So the simple pshat seems to be me'ayim, the intestines. It's not good for digestion. And while he's walking, he's doing exercise. What do they say nowadays also? After a person eats, he shouldn't do exercise. So the same thing, if he's walking on the road, that's exercise. That's not good for digestion. Because of food. Because if he's eating up his food, he doesn't have more food on the road, and he's not able to get any food. So he should be raw sanola and ration the food in case he won't have later. So 2 reasons. By the way, I missed it. I wanted to say the other shot, and also mayana. Some say the word is mayan, either ma'ayim, intestines, or mayan. And Rashi says maybe that means that the intestines are going to be flowing like a mayan, which is not good. It shouldn't be shulshul. But same idea. There's 2 pshatim in the word. It means ma'ayim, intestines, or it means mayan, a spring.
I think the Rambam said it's good. Karev l'shulshul, if I remember correctly. No.
But everyone says it's not good to do exercise after eating. So that's the issue. It doesn't seem to be halacha say. It seems to be good advice, either health advice or taking care of his parnasa, that he should have food on the road. My benai, what will be a difference between the 2 pshatim? Ika benayu, on top of the next page, Taf Shin Aleph, the Yosef, Ba'arba, trying to make it bigger. The Yosef Ba'arba, he's sitting on the ship, in a car. He's not walking, he's traveling without walking. So then he's not doing exercise, so to speak. He's not physically working, so then it wouldn't be a problem to eat. But if the problem is because he might not have food on down the road, so then he might not have food either. On the ship, he might not have food, so then he should ration. Inami, also another nafkamina would be the kozlami avna lavna. Rashi says station. From going to station means like there are inns on the way. That he is walking, but there is food on the way. So then, as far as the fact that it's not healthy to eat when he is walking, so that's no different. So here he's walking, so he should not eat. But if the problem is because he doesn't have food, so there's food on the way. There are places to get food on the way. So each reason it would be a chumrah and a kula. The Papa called parsa achal chada rifta. The Papa, when he was traveling, every parsa is about 4 kilometers. He would eat 1 bread. Kasava mishum mayana. He also reason is because of mayana that it's not healthy for digestion when he's walking, and therefore he did it. So Rashi, I wouldn't be able to tell what Pshat the Gemara is, but Rashi says that this is called that he was eating a lot. It's not considered rationing; it's considering it eating a lot. 1 bread every parsa, every 4 or 5 kilometers, he would eat a bread. And Rashi says the reason because if it would be the problem because he might not have food on the way, so then he should not have eaten. But he also the reason is because of Mayan, that it's not good for the digestion. And she says that since he was a big person, so then it was okay, which I don't understand the physical facts. A big person also, even if he's big, it doesn't mean that the digestion is going to go better.
Maybe he's used to eating so much, so this was considered a little.
Okay, then it'll be that he's considered a little for his amount. So then you can say that also for Mazona also, that he needs this how much he eats. Unless
but he's supposed to eat less than normal.
So this is called less than normal.
That's right.
So then it would be good for the other pshat also. Then the more wouldn't say kastava mishamayana. Then it would be if he owes Mazoni also. This is what he eats. So he has to eat his minimum. So I'm just saying what Rashi says. I don't really understand it so well. But what do we have? The end of the Gemara. that it's not advisable to eat regularly on the road. One reason is because it's not good for digestion if he's walking, and the other reason is because he might not have enough food down the road. And the Gemara says all the nafkaminas. Nowadays, maybe it doesn't apply too much because usually people don't walk so long unless they're after walking. But if they are traveling by car or something like that, then it shouldn't apply. And the other issue is if he doesn't have food. But if he knows that there are stores on the way, he's going to a place which is populated, maybe they don't have kosher food, maybe he's in a place where he can't get food. On a plane, sometimes it happens that the order didn't go through, doesn't have kosher food, so maybe he should ration himself to make sure that in case there's some mishap on the plane, he should have enough food.
Can I give a application? If someone's going on a hike, these
Yeah.
two reasons might apply.
Yeah, okay, very good. On a hike, so then he's walking, and also he doesn't know what's going to be down there in the forest, wherever he's going. So yeah, that's true that he should ration his food to make sure that he has in case, and also take long enough water. That's what they also say. Next Gemara. If a person hungers himself during a hunger, so obviously he has food. If he doesn't have food, then anyway he's hungry. He's hungering himself. It means that he consciously hungers himself, even if he does have food. But like the Gemara is going to say soon, that a person should be mishtatefim at tzibur. He should be joining the rest of the tzibur, and even if he personally has food, but if nobody else has food, he should act like them. And if he does so, he's going to be saved from a how do you say misa mishuna? An abnormal death. And Rashi seems to say that a famine is considered an abnormal death. He'll die a natural death. It doesn't mean that it means it doesn't save him from actual death, but he won't die of the famine. That's what Rashi seems to say. Because it's a schus for him that he was mishtatef with the tzibur, that he joined in the tzibur's problem. He didn't say, I'm not part of the tzibur. That since everybody else is in a tzara, he also joined them. The pasuk on the pasuk is that Hashem saved him in the famine, from a famine. But the Gemara says that the base birov, it should have said maybe. It should have said maybe that Hashem saved him from the famine. Why does it say Hashem saved him in the famine? So the Gemara is answering the base means because of the famine, because of his hungering himself. Birov, because of his hungering himself. Elachi come out. In the reward, in the merit that he hungered himself, he's going to be saved. What's he going to be saved from? The pasuk says mimaves, but the Gemara says misa mashuna. That actually says that he'll be saved from abnormal way of death. That's in the merit that he joined the tzibur. And it goes on more points about that a person shouldn't ignore the problem of the tzibur and go on with his own enjoyment of life.
Excuse me, he joined the Seaboard
By not eating
a lot in a time when there's not a lot of food.
right, even though he personally has food.
Oh, even if he has.
I'm adding that on. I'm adding that on, even though he has food. But the tzibur doesn't have
And then
food.
he won't have an unusual death, but he'll have a normal death.
At the right time on his deathbed. But
Well, it
it
could
won't.
also be early, but it would be a normal death.
Then it doesn't sound like it's normal if it's early.
Is there anything to learn from Elimelech on this subject?
The Gemara is soon going to talk about Parshman at Tzibur. We'll see. Maybe that you can bring it up.
Because he did have a quick death.
What did it say over there that he left because he didn't support? Over there, the way the Midrashim goes that he didn't. He did, and he was able to support. He's able to support them, and he didn't. But it doesn't talk about this point about the fact that he left might be Parish. Yeah. Okay. I hear.
I think it could make application, even if it's not a hunger, but sometimes a recession or people are losing, a lot of people don't have jobs and don't,
So they
We
talk
should-
about that. The post can talk about it if there's food available, but it's very expensive. So the post can talk about is that the same thing?
but no, a lot of people don't have work and
So
people-
no, so that's you're calling it a tzara. They talk about this Gemara doesn't mean only a famine or any kind of a tzara. That's one point they talk about. And is a famine if it's just that there's no food, or there is food but it's very expensive. That also so the post can talk about these issues. It doesn't say that's us mamish. It says that it's a schus. I mean, we'll see soon that maybe next Gemara also talks about us, maybe the word us.
whatever is a person's going to gain if they don't live it up when other people are suffering, definitely gain.
Definitely. And the question is maybe it's even us, maybe he's not allowed to. It's wrong that he's considered like he's not part of the tzibur. Amrish Lakish. And a person should not have relations during a famine. Because of the relations means lachora. Lachora the Pashit, the Mepharshim said that it means that he's enjoying himself, the enjoyment. And the Gemara is going to soon say that, let's see two lines before I talk. So a person should not. It says usher even. Taisa says maybe it's only means chasidus. Let's see. It's usher for a person to have relations during a famine. A famine could be a long time sometimes. Shenemal Yosef Yulach Shnei Banim B'tem Tavosh Nasarav, that Yosef had 2 sons before the famine came. So the Pashturat is just telling you before when it happened. But the Morris Darshaning, Dafka before the famine, because during the famine he wouldn't have had because he didn't have relations.
That's
Tana.
why you only had 2.
Later on he had more children, it sounds like. But, here we
Shabbos would be
Not,
awesome.
not during those.
The Pasha says that there's no relations. That's what it sounds like. Let's see 2 lines. Tana, Chasuch Banim Meshamshim Mitzvim B'Shnei Rabban. People who have no children. Chasuch Banim means Chasere, like they held back from children. They don't have children, so then they are allowed to have relations during the famine. And there's no issue that we just said it doesn't apply to Chasuch Banim. So the post can talk about that. Sounds like even the regular time that they would have relations ona. That's not a heter. Only if it's chasuch banim, and even if they talk about if he didn't do if he's doing it for the purpose of children also, but he has already children. So the pasuk Gemara is mashma that they shouldn't have relations here all the time. Only if they have no children, or maybe they didn't do puravu yet. What? A boy and a
If
girl.
they didn't do pruvu.
So then they could.
But
Then they
have
could. No children,
then
or
this prohibition is
is waived, right?
Is
Waived. And Rashi seems to say even pruvu means till he has a boy and a girl, then also it would override this issur. But otherwise, if they're not doing it for the minimum pruvu, so then they should not have relations. That sounds like a very big chumrah. It could be a very long. It could be 7 years, right? A famine sometimes. So there's that. So Taisus points out that the Ma'asidus is the Taisus out that you see that Yocheved was born Ben Homos. That was during the famine. Yocheved was born.
This Asura. Yeah, the top one.
Top Taisus. Sometimes Yocheved no Ben Homos. That was a rov. So they had relations. So Taisus says it must be a Chasidus only. That Yosef was Meschase, then the Gemara says Aser doesn't mamish mean Aser, it's only a Chasidus. That's
And
the
a year and a
Taisus.
half ago, like when people couldn't travel, they lost their jobs. Is that considered a famine?
So it's not a famine, There was food. But the Poskim talked about if it's any kind of any tzara or only a famine.
Okay.
But one thing I don't understand over here, on Shabbos, why does this apply also to Shabbos? I'm not
Because the
disagreeing.
tzibur is in a famine on Shabbos also. The tzibur with the tzara of the tzibur is on Shabbos also. So not to ignore the effect on Shabbos. That's what it sounds like. It's not the Shabbos doesn't seem to be an exception.
Chassidus, a person should do Chassidus on Shabbos also.
That's what it's-
Benaynik Shabbos.
This is what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is talking about the Chassidus. This is more considered as a Chassidus on Shabbos also. The Gemara is not saying that Shabbos is not included in there. Tana Rabbanan. The whole Amr here is going to be about this issue about being part of the tzibur, not ignoring the tzibur and saying I'm on my own. Tana Rabbanan. When I'm Yisrael is in a tzara, man and a person separated himself. I'm not part of this. The 2 angels that ask a person here, it sounds like a person is always escorted by 2 angels, not only big tzaddikim, everybody. The shashim, like we say, Shabbos. Some talk about if the ones of Shabbos are they the regular 2 or they special 2. It depends on the gears over there. But here it says the 2 angels that always escort a person, they come. They put their hands on his head, and they say. They curse him, and they say that this person that separated himself from the congregation, he should not see when the tzibur is consoled, when he's going to be on the chama, he should not be zocha to see it. That's a curse to him because he didn't join in the tzibur, so he's not going to see when the tzibur is going to have it in the chama. Tan Yidach will note another brayso. When the tzibur is in tzar, a person should not say, "I'll go to my house and eat and drink and everything's fine." In also Cain, all of a cause of Omer, if he does such a thing, he separates himself. The person does about him. The person is not talking about the exact case. It's talking about when the Navi says it's going to be bad. The Navi prophesies that the Tzarus is coming. The pasuk says the people ignore. People are just land. To kill means to slaughter cattle and sheep. To eat meat and drink wine. Eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. So this is the pasuk in Yeshaya where it's describing the people who didn't take the nevuah seriously, and here it's also a similar thing. It's not a nevuah, it's actually happening. Current events is happening that there's a famine, and he doesn't take it seriously, and he goes to his house, he has enough food, then he ignores the facts. He ignores the message that Hashem is sending that there's a tzara. Maksib Basrei, what does it say about that? Afterwards, and it's been revealed, the Navi says, it's revealed to my ears, this sin is not going to be forgiven until they die. So that's called the Chil Hashem, that the Navi is talking and they're disregarding it. So too, when the famine comes and the person disregards it, it's the same thing. That he's a Chil Hashem, he's ignoring the message of Hashem. He's not, also the point here that he's not taking part of the tzibur. Ad kan midas beinanim. This person that just said, eat and drink for tomorrow we shall die, is called the Beinoni. It's not that it can get even worse because he does realize tomorrow he's going to die. But he's like the Navi said, tomorrow he's going to die. So the people say, okay, so let's drink and eat and drink today. As long as we're living, let's eat and drink. But he didn't deny that tomorrow they're going to die. But the Midas Risham, there are people that are even worse, and they say, Maksiv, they sell you a Chayayin, Venisbal Shechor, because they're Yom Achor. And the pasuk goes a little bit further. Yes, I got Ma'od. That the Rashi brings down the end of the pasuk, that the people, they say, come and I'll take wine and we'll guzzle Shechor, and it's going to be even more. Tomorrow, these people say, tomorrow we're going to die, so let's hop around and eat and drink. These people say tomorrow's going to be even a bigger party. They ignore the fact that they're going to die tomorrow. That's even worse. What is there as a punishment for those people? That the tzaddik dies, and people don't realize that the reason is because the tzara is coming. That Hashem takes away the tzaddik before the tzara comes, that he shouldn't experience that tzara. It's going to be such a big tzara that Hashem even takes away the tzaddikim earlier, that they should die earlier in order that they shouldn't experience that big tzara that's happening. So that's what's going to happen to those people who ignore the tzara and the navi and the tzara, and they go on their merry way. Ella, what should a person do? He should join the tzibur. Top line. Ella yitzar adam atzmai matzibur shekem asinu b'Moshe Rabbeinu shetzir atzmai matzibur. And the tzibur has a problem, so he should be part of that. As we find Moshe Rabbeinu, that's talking about by Amalek and the Parshas B'Shalach, that Moshe was raising his hands and Am Yisrael was victorious over the Amalekim. Then it says that the hands of Moshe got heavy and they brought a stone and they put it beneath him and he sat on it. Then it says Aaron V'chor supported his hands. But it says he sat on the stone. Why didn't they bring a cushion for him just to sit on the stone? Since Am Yisrael was in the Tsar, Amalek, there was a war going on, so he didn't bring a cushion for himself. So therefore, you see that a person should be part of the tzibur. In contrast to what I said before, that a person who separates himself from the tzibur is not going to see the nechama. So a person who, on the contrary, he does join the tzibur in their problem, so then he's going to merit and see the nechama when the tzibur gets the nechama. And the rest of the Gemara goes now, who's going to testify? Now, this can be very general, not after by this point about a person who goes to his house, closes the door, and he enjoys himself. This can be any Avera. And the Gemara does bring it down this following Gemara. The next Gemara, the one in Chagiga brings it down by all Averas. But here it talks about Dafka over here. I'm not sure why the Gemara Dafka finds necessity to say this whole Gemara coming up Dafka over here. The Gemara is a very general thing.
Maybe it's a chiddush that not only in public, even in private, you should be mitzvah.
Even though it doesn't sound like that, it sounds like me made me. Like it says already that a person shouldn't go into his house. But now it's going to say, V'shem Yom Adam, me made me. A person might say, who's going to testify against me? Like who's going to say? Who knows that I'm eating? Now you can say that if it's a bad thing, we said already it's a bad thing before. That he goes to his house, closes the door, and eats and drinks, that's bad. And now we're saying, he says, who's gonna testify? So that's a general question that any time you do an Avera, you can say who's gonna say. And the Gemara talking Chagiga brings the whole Gemara down. The next couple of lines, the Gemara brings it also in Chagiga by general Averas. So I'm not sure why it brings it up over here. So the question is, a person might say, who's going to testify against me? The answer is, there are going to be four answers. The first one is, the stones of his house and the beams of his house are going to testify against him. Because it says in the pasuk that the stone is going to cry out from the wall, and the kafis is a kind of a brick also. Rashi says, the Gemara says it's made out of 2 slabs of wood and cement in between. It's a kind of a brick. That's why it says kafis me'etz yanena. That's made the wood. There's wood on the outside and there's cement on the inside. But the point is to say that the building itself, that the walls of this room are going to testify against him. He thinks that nobody's looking, so the walls are looking, and the walls are also going to testify. Kafis is a kind of a brick. Rashi's, you look at Rashi over here. Rashi's right on the side. Chatzil Levena, we give him Lasita Ben Shtein Nidvachea Eitzim. It's kind of
Maybe half brick.
a brick that's made. A Levena is a brick that's 3 by 3. It's a bit. Rashi's telling you the dimensions, and it says that it's Ben Shtein Nidvachea Eitzim. It's between two sides of wood. So the point that I should say why it says Me'etz Yanena, that's going to call out from the eights. So the point is that the bricks and the walls, the windows, whatever, they're all going to call out. Rabbi Miller, he talks about this Gemara. Just he says that when a person thinks nobody's looking, he should realize that the walls are looking. Like he was taking also as far as how a person trains himself. He should realize that nowadays it's much easier. You have cameras, everything. The walls are not looking, but the point would be that you shouldn't think that you're in privacy. The walls are going to testify.
But you obviously say, don't say something about somebody that the walls are here.
No, that's something else. That's an expression that Rashi brings down as Naim Lakosa.
Yeah.
That's not a Gemara. That's a Gemara. Yeah, Rashi brings down that expression that don't think you're in privacy when you're taking a secret. When you're taking a secret, go out to the field and over there nobody's there. Today it might be a drone over there also, but the Gemara says when you have something private to say, so go to the field because in the house you don't know who's I'm listening on the other side of the wall. It doesn't over there. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that at all. Over here it means that the walls are going to testify. Over there, the Rashi's Znaim Lakosla means that there's the ear on the other side of the wall. It means you think nobody's listening. You don't know if someone's listening. If you're in the room, you think nobody's there. You don't know if someone listens through the wall. So it's not the same. It's saying that the walls are going to testify against the person who doesn't know it.
This also be in terms of Kavi Ben in Pirkei Avos, who said we should know that Hashem sees and hears everything. And yet, if we think of it in terms of the walls, sometimes we forget about Hashem.
That's how Rabbi Miller was using it. The simple words of the Gemara, whatever you want to take the words, but it says that the walls are going to testify. What does that mean? That
they'll speak to Hashem about
they're going to testify. The Derech Hashem brings down that the Bezdin Shalmala, the heavenly court, is like a Bezdin Shalmata, just like there's an earthly court. So heavenly court, even though Hashem knows everything, but Hashem made there should be, for whatever reason, Hashem made that the order of court in heaven is like an earthly court, and there's that Dayanim, and there's witnesses, prosecutor, defendant, the whole Seder. So this is probably based on this Gemara that says that there's testimony. And now the point is that the waves, they get absorbed into the and then they're going to record, they're going to play back whatever he spoke. So here it says that they're going to testify against him. Those two angels that escort a person wherever he goes, they're going to testify against him. But over there it says that the person has malachim. That's talking about maybe the dafka. Hashem says malachim to protect him, but the Gemara thinks it not like that. That a person always has malachim that are accompanying him, and they're going to testify for good or for bad. That a person's neshama is going to testify against him, like it says that watch the opening of your mouth from the one who lies with you. So that's the neshama. There's a guf in the neshama. So beware of the partner that's going to testify. Are going to testify against him, like it says, "You are my witnesses," says Hashem. I don't see what the drush over there is not. The Pashto over there is not talking about that. It's talking about that Am Yisrael are the witnesses of Hashem. But the Gemara is taking a drush. I don't see what room for the drush is. You are my witnesses. So here it says, "Your witnesses against yourselves." That's what the Gemara is saying. That you yourselves are going to testify against yourselves if need be. So those are the four things the Gemara said: either the walls, the bricks, whatever, the stones, or the two malachim that accompany a person, or the neshama, or a person's limbs. So that was all that a person is going to go into privacy and do what he wants and enjoy himself when the tzibur is in sorrow. So it says, there's testimony against. The Gemara continues with the point about this, that a person is, it seems, the next Gemara seems irrelevant, but it probably is. It's going to end off something about a person, everything that he did. That a person, when he's going to come to heaven, we're going to see what it says now, that each person is going to be told everything that he did in his lifetime, and he's going to be asked to sign, and he's going to sign. It means it's not going to be a question about the acts that he did. It's going to be evident and testify that he himself is going to sign. That's what Gemara starts now. The pasuk says, "Elamunah ve'inobel," and the pasuk ends, "Sadik v'yashar." Pasuk in Parashas Zinu, Shivas Zinu, Elamunah. That Hashem is Elamunah. He's a trustworthy God. Neman, ve'inobel. He doesn't do any iniquity, no bad. So the more darshans that Elamunah, that means that Hashem is trusted. כשם שנפרע מן הרשום לעולם הבא, אפילו על עבירה קלה שעושים, כך נפרע מן הצדיקים בעולם הזה, על עבירה קלה שעושים. That Hashem pays back even for a small avera. Just like the Rishon in the old world to come, so too the tzaddikim in this world. The Gemara doesn't go into the point how come this world and that world that we saw in Derech Hashem that brings down from Gemara and Kedushin that the tzaddikim, they get their main reward is going to be in Olam Haba, and the minority of averas are paid in this world, and the Rosh is the opposite, that he gets his minority of mitzvahs in this world, and then he loses Olam Haba. That's the point of the Gemara here, Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. But the point is to say that Hashem pays back even for a small avera to the Rishon in Olam Haba, to the Tzaddikim in Olam Hazeh. And the opposite, the Ein Novel, that's the next part of the pasuk, that Hashem does not have any iniquity, as far as the schar. Kishem shel mishal mitzchar l'tzaddikim l'olam haba, afilu al-mitzvah kala shosin, kach mishal mitzchar l'rishon l'olam hazeh, afilu al-mitzvah kala shosin. That reward is paid for even the smallest mitzvah to the rishon in olam hazeh, to the tzaddikim in olam haba. Some change around the gear, so we would have thought that El Amuna is going on paying back the reward, and Ein Ovel is going back on the punishment. And they do say that the Gersa should be the opposite of Gemara, but either way, both of them are true, that Hashem pays even for the smallest mitzvah, and Hashem pays even for the smallest avera. And then getting to our point, Tzaddik Yashor Hu, that's the end of the pasuk, Hashem is righteous and upright, Melamed, whatever, B'shas B'tivash Shalom, when a person leaves the world, Kol Masav Nifratin L'fanav, all of his actions of his whole life are detailed, are spelled out in front of him, and they tell to the person, Kach v'kach hasisa b'mokum ploni b'yom ploni, this is what you did, certain place, certain day. That the act and the place and the time is all spelled out in front of a person after he dies of his whole lifetime. And he says yes, he admits. They tell him in heaven, sign. He signs. What does that mean, signing in heaven? I don't know, but it means that he mamish admits and he affirms that everything that they said about his actions are true. And he said, brings a pasuk, each person has a signature, he signs by each person. But not only that, that he agrees that the verdict is true after the actions are first verified, and then there's a verdict for whatever he deserves. Then he's going to be mastik alav asadin. He's going to say that the judgment, the verdict is true. He says to the Beis Shamal, he says to the heavenly court, that you have judged me properly. We just had until a few days ago. You Hashem, David says to Hashem that you are going to be righteous in your words. Whatever you say is true. So the Gemara brought this down in order to teach us this point about when a person says who's going to testify. So he himself is going to admit everything that's done, that he did. New Gemara. All that Gemara was all about a person. We had some points.
Maybe can you tell me to admit? He's like titzdak. He's being tzaddik.
The titzdak is as far as the verdict. There's first the facts. Like every time there's a din, the first you have to have what the facts were and then what the judgment is. So the point of Gemara is to me, who's going to testify? That's besides the verdict. That's first like what the facts are. So the Gemara is making the big point that the facts are going to be clear. Either it's going to be the testimony of the wall or the malachim of the neshama, and now the Gemara says that they're going to tell him what he did, and he's going to admit, and he's going to sign. He himself is going to admit. And then you're saying another point that the Gemara says that the verdict also is going to. Can we say the verdict is also fitting? Look at Gemara. Amar Shmuel. Here it talks about if it's a good thing to have a voluntary fast. So of course the fast days that are mandatory, so that's not a question. But here it talks about voluntary fast. Amar Shmuel. If somebody fasts, it's called a sinner. It's not good to fast. Don't fast. He holds like the following Bryce. Tana, the Tanya learned in the Bryce of Elazar Kappa Rebbe Omer. Why does it say in the pasuk that he should get an atonement for what he sinned? So over there it's talking about a Nazir. A Nazir is somebody who accepted upon himself not to drink wine, etc., not to cut his hair, not to become Tamil Mason. Over there it's talking about that he became Tamil. He became Tamil, he has to start all over again. And it says over there that if he's a korban, then he's atoned for becoming Tamil. But the Gemara is mentioning it altogether different. That it's not talking about that because he became Tamil. He's called a sinner because he became a Nazir, not because he became Tamil. What did he do wrong? Did he kill somebody? What's nefesh? What is that? What did he do wrong? The problem was that he held himself back from drinking wine. That's considered an avera. Hashem gave wine in the world, so why not drink the wine? So the fact that he became a Nazir, that's considered a sin. If so, then it's a kavachomer. A person who just held himself back from wine is called a sinner. So if he makes a fast, then he doesn't eat anything, so that's surely considered a sin. So Shmuel says it's not good to fast. Shmuel is against fasting. Of course, again, the voluntary fast. The Gemara talks about this Maseches Tainus is going to talk about when there's a drought, and then there goes a Tainus al Tzibur, either the Yechidim also, and the Rabban and Dafka, and then it talks about 3 and 7. There are a lot of fast days coming up. So those are mandatory fast days, and then it doesn't mean that. But it means if a person is going to fast more than necessary, so that's considered a chait. Hashem gave the world, he's supposed to use it, enjoy it, and not to hold back from it. Rabbi Elazar argues, Rabbi Elazar Omer Nikra Kadosh. On the contrary, a person who fasts is considered holy. Also about a Nazir. Interesting. Both of them bring about a Nazir. And the pasuk says that he should cut his hair, and the hair, it says, is holy. That's the pasuk on the pasuk that the hair should be holy. But he's darshaning it kadoshiyah, that the person is holy. Kadoshiyah. It says also he has to let his hair grow long. But he's darshaning that the man is holy. So a person who became a Nazir, he's considered holy. And he also makes a couple chomer. The Nazir who does held himself back from one thing is called holy. If he makes a fast and he holds back from all kinds of enjoyments, surely he's called holy. So Machlokes, Rabbi Shmuel says that he's a sinner, and Rabbi Elazar says that he's holy. The Marsa Kasha teach one the other one's pasuk, because Shmuel brought a pasuk, he's called a sinner. Rabbi Elazar brought a pasuk, he's called holy. Well, the Shmuel ha'ikri kadosh. What do you do with the pasuk where it says that the Nazir is kadosh? The answer is a pasuk pshat. Who the gidul parako? It's going on the hair. The hair is holy, not that the man is holy. The hair becomes asur. Well, Rabbi Elazar ha'nikra chote, and Rabbi Elazar Kasha, he says he's considered holy. The pasuk says he's considered a sinner. The answer is also pasuk pshat. Who the sub nafshe? But that's talking about he became tamei, but the pasuk pshat. But we're not saying that a Nazir who didn't become tamei is a sinner. As a Nazir who became tamei is a sinner, but not the regular Nazir. So Machlokes is still, Shmuel says he's considered a sinner, Rabbi Elazar says he's considered holy. The bottom line, Rabbi Elazar says he's considered holy. A person should always measure himself. A person should always estimate as if a kadosh is inside his intestines. So Rashi says that the intestines are holy. Taisha says that Hashem, he should think about Hashem. What is that? Not that Hashem is inside his intestines, but he should. The point is going to be both pshatim, that it means that there's holiness to his body, and he should take care of it. Shenama b'kir b'cha kadosh. Within you is holiness. The Holy One is within you. The end of the pasuk says, "V'lo yavo b'ir." It's not again to hard Rashi right now. That the Gemara darshan a few pages ago. But I'm not going to come to Yerushalayim Shalmata till I come to Yerushalayim Shalmata. But that's not our point. The point is the beginning of the pasuk b'kir b'cha kadosh, that within you is holiness, and therefore you should not fast. That's what the Gemara is asking. A contradiction in Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says he's called holy, and here he himself said that he should consider his intestines holy. The answer is lo kasha. If you can tolerate the fast or not, if he's physically strong enough to be able to tolerate the fast, so then he's called holy. But if he can't, and it's not good, the doctor says don't fast, then he's not called holy.
Physical, I thought maybe it's psychological. He's stressing himself out.
Maybe, yeah, okay. So then if the doctor will tell him it's not good for you, but
because over here we're talking about fasting. We're talking about
fasting. They're talking about fasting. We're not talking about nose. We're talking about fasting.
Okay.
So the Gemara says that even if Elazar says he's called holy, it's only if he can tolerate it. But if he can't tolerate it, so then maybe any reason, whatever, emotional, whatever. But if he can't tolerate it, then he should not. But if he could, then of course it's difficult to fast. That's what a fast is all about. He's afflicting himself. But then it's considered holy. And they pass like Rabbi Elazar. The post can pass like Rabbi Elazar that if he could fast, then he's considered holy. If not, then he should not. Shmuel seems to say that no fast at all. Shmuel doesn't hold that it's a mile of the fast. Nikra Chosid. So the Pashut Pshat is that Rosh Lakish is saying that if he fasts, he's called a Chosid even. Like Rabbi Elazar said, it's called Kadosh. He's going the same things are positive. He's also positive, and he says Chosid. The Rishil Shalom says that a Kadosh is more than a Chosid. Here it sounds a little bit like a Chosid is more than a Kadosh, or whatever it is. They both say that it's positive. Again, he's also going to talk about if he could tolerate it. If he can't tolerate it, also don't do it. But if he could tolerate it, he's called a Chosid. So the Pashut Pshat is that a person who is Gomel Nafsho, that he takes care of himself. But the Gemara is dashing Gomel like the lesson of to be weaned, that it's weaned. He weans himself. He stays away from food. So then it's considered a chassid. The Gemara says ish chesed, and the pasuk says ish chesed. He's dashing it chassid. Or Rashi explains that the Gemara is coming to say the downside also, according to Rish Lakish. If he's ruining his himself, if he's ruining his flesh, so then he's achzari, then it's considered cruel. So we don't mean a person who can't tolerate it, but if he could tolerate it, it's called a chassid. Just point out that some Rishonim learn over here, the Rish Lakish is saying if he does not fast, he's called a chassid. Gomal Nafsho, that he does take care of himself, he's called a chassid. Tosfos and Ben Yochanan, both of them had a different gear, so maybe, I'm not sure, but they say that if he does not fast, he's called a chassid. The simple pshat is that Rish Lakish holds like a Belazar. But anyway, Machlokes Shmuel and a Belazar, is he called a sinner or holy? Rish Lakish says, chassid, the pshat holds like a Belazar holds that as a good thing. The person could fast, to fast. Amar Rav Sheishis, Hi Bar Bei Rav, the Yasser B'Tanisa, Lechol Kalba L'Shevu Say. Bar Bei Rav is a person who's learning, he's in yeshiva, someone who's in yeshiva. Not Talmud Chacham yet, but he's a learning person that he fasts, so that's not good. A person who's learning should not fast. The Gemara is going to say soon the same thing, that a person who's learning, that the fast is going to take away from his learning, even though he's physically able to tolerate the fast, but that day's learning is going to be gone. He's not going to learn. So it's not kedai to make a voluntary fast if he's learning.
Why?
Because he's learning.
A balabas that learns 3 hours a day also.
If he's not going to learn, the point there would be that he could learn the 3 hours and the rest of the day, so he won't be able to work as much. But also the poskim will say if he's working for somebody else, also he's not allowed to fast if he's working for somebody else. But if he's on his own, he's not affecting anybody, only his own, so he could take off. He won't work so much that day. But if he's learning, so then it's not like Yetzas Charbev Seder. He's loses more than he gains. So how does the Gemara say? Someone who's the yeshiva man, Rabbi Rav, that he is lechol kalba l'shevu say. A dog should eat his meal. The word shevu say means his meal, and a dog should eat his meal. What does that mean? Rashi seems to say that it's as if a dog ate his meal, and it's just another way of saying that he has no food to eat, that he didn't gain anything. It's like he just didn't eat because he didn't have what to eat. A little dochak in the lashon sounds that the dog should eat his meal. I thought the simple shot would be that when a person fasts, he gains at least the food that he didn't eat. He had $5 for a meal, so he fasted today, so he gained $5. Even the $5 also, he should lose also like a curse. It's not worth anything. He didn't get anything out of the fast. The person who's learning and he fasts, he didn't get anything. Now, the next couple of lines, the two lines that it says here, is mamash out of place, and it doesn't. It interrupts the subject, and then right away the Gemara goes back to the subject again. So the Dukei Sofrim that have the Gersos, so they say that this 2 lines, this one and a half line, should be moved up a little bit. We'll come back to it in a minute, but if we could, we'll skip it right now. We're skipping from this Amir Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba to the next one. The next one. We'll come back in a second. Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba, Amar Rish Lakish, Ein Talmud Chacham Rashai L'Shev L'Tainis B'Pnei Shem Amayit B'Melach Hashemayim. The same thing as Rav Sheshes said before, that a Talmud Chacham is not allowed to fast because he's minimizing in the heavenly work that he's doing, that he's learning Torah. So he should not fast because he's going to minimize in the holy work that he's doing. Mamash like Rav Sheshes said, Talmud Chacham should not fast. So again, it's somewhat a voluntary fast. Before we had Shmuel and Rabbi Elazar, if it's a good thing to fast if he could, and now and we see the pasuk like Rabbi Elazar that if he could, it is a praiseworthy thing. If he can't, then it should not. Then it's called then it's bad. Take care of your body. But if he could tolerate a fast, it's a praiseworthy thing. Not a Gemara says, but if he's a Talmud Chacham who is learning, not the Talmud Chacham, but he's a person who's learning. So also we should not get the benefit of the fast on the cheshbon of losing the learning. Now that's the end of the sugya.
You're saying the thing that we skipped, that should come after this?
Right. So now this thing that it says that we're going back now.
Tangent on.
It's a new Gemara. It's going back on the Mishnah. It's not nothing to do with. It's not even a tangent. It's going to be a new sugya going on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that the Dukei Sofrim says that this Gemara now we're backing up a little bit. Those words, it's going on the Mishnah that says when it comes to Chodesh Kislev and it didn't rain yet, so they make Tanaisim. And then it goes on and says there are Muhammad Tanaisim. There's a fast series of 3 fasts, and then there's going to be later on another 3 that are more, and then 7. So on this, there's a Piska. There's like brought down from the Mishnah those words, and then in Bavel. There's no Tanis Tzibur. It means the Tanis Tzibur. Rashi says Tanis Tzibur means Tanis Tzibur of the Chamuros, the severe one. That's going to be that you have a 24-hour fast and it's also to wash and also to wear shoes. All that doesn't apply in Bavel. In Bavel, there's no such thing. Why not? The Gemara doesn't say. Only Tisha B'Av. Of course, in Kippur also, but that's a Torah law. But there's no time to Sibur and Babel to make such a Chomer fast, only Tisha B'Av. Why not? Why in Babel is there no time to Sibur? So some Rishonim say the reason is because there's water over there. They never have such a drought. Or as the Gemara said earlier, even if there's no water, they could live off of it grows anyway because they have rivers over there. Atira Babel, the Chatzda Below Mitra. The Gemara said 2 pages ago that they could cut the tefua, they harvest even if there's no rain. And that's the reason why they don't have a tinus. Others say a different reason is because they have no nasi. Another point, the Rishonim bring down that there's no nasi over there. That in order to be goes to tinus, you have to have the authority to be goes to tinus to make a tinus sibur, and there's no authority nowadays. Could be also nowadays that's the reason why there's no tinus sibur because of this reason. But also we said that nowadays they don't make a tinus sibur for a drought because it's possible to get food from other places that might be included in this Gemara also. That in Babel there's no tinus sibur because it's not fatal when there's a drought. So too could be the same thing nowadays that they could transport from other places. Also, the Gemara we skipped it. We didn't learn together. The Gemara said a couple of pages ago that if there's a drought in some places and some places not, so that's the same idea that they can get food from the places that there was rain. So that Gemara is a Gemara on its own, and now we continue. It says that once they make fast, either the Yechidim, and then it says later on about the Tzibur, the Rosh Chodesh Kislev, so then they make 3 fast days, Sheni, Chamisha, V'Sheni, and those fast days are still considered like a light fast day, and it says that they're allowed to eat at night, you just don't eat in the morning, it's like easier fast, and over there it says also that it's mutter to do malacha, it's mutter to wash and anoint and to wear shoes, and relations, all that is mutter. Later on there's going to be a more severe series of fasts if it still didn't rain even later. So here it says in the Mishnah that they're allowed to eat at night. And now the Gemara, this sugi is going to start, we're going to continue tomorrow, but the sugi is going to start about what they call a half-day fast. Is there such thing as a half-day fast? Nowadays, sometimes people do a half-day fast. So till mincha, so that's going to be more or less the sugi is going to go into that. We're not going to see the whole sugi today, but we're at least going to start. The Gemara starts, Amar Abzira, Amar Avuna. Yachad Shekibu Lalav Tainis, the individual fast, the person accepted upon himself a fast day. We're going to see later on that you have to make a Kabbalah. You have to, in Mincha before, the previous Mincha, you have to accept upon yourself the fast. So Yachid, yes?
Oh, really?
That's only considered a fast day if the person accepted it the day before.
The day before.
Right. If he didn't, then it's not considered a fast day. We're going to see later on. Yachid Shekibu Lalav Tainis, a person accepted upon himself a fast day. We'll say Mincha, well, that's Allah, it has to be during Mincha. They ate the whole night because the fast starts in the morning. So Allah Shachar. So he was accepted the fast day the day before, and then he has a big meal. The whole night he's eating, so eating a big meal. In the morning he goes to Shachris. Does he say Anenu? He says Anenu. Even though he's full because he's in the fast day now, because the fast day starts from the morning, even though he ate the whole night. What if he, another other extreme, he fasted the whole day?
For some reason we don't say
We do say
This was a regular full day fast.
but we don't say Bashak.
That's a nice point. That the minig is not to say Bashachris, and the poskim don't understand why. They say the reason is because he might break his fast. He might not be able to fast. But really, the Gemara says if you say even in Marv, the Pashas even in Marv also Marv, and when it's going to be a full day fast, a 24-hour fast. But you're right. The minig is only to say by Mincha, but
Someone
really,
say it won't, it's not a problem.
if he wants to say L'chara, it should be okay. I think the Rush says that. How could you not say it? I think the Gemara says we'll see later on. But you're right. The custom is not say by Mincha. But there it says that tomorrow, even though he ate the whole night, he says Anenu. Now the case continues. The fast was over, but he didn't eat. So he fasted the whole day. Call it 12 hours, the whole day, and now it's night, and he didn't eat. Lan b'tal nisa, the whole night he didn't eat, and he gets up the next morning. Could he say Anenu?
No,
Enu is Baal Shaltanis. He doesn't say Anenu anymore because
the fast was for one
day. So everybody got the Gemara's maskana, but the Gemara doesn't know that yet. The Gemara is going a little slower. But you're right. That's going to be the maskana.
Also because the minute before he didn't say that.
Right. That's what the Gemara is going to come out, that because he wasn't
But it
accountable
seems
to
like he's
fast.
still fasting, so
He's
you
fasting,
might
but
think that
it's
he
just
would.
not right. But he's just not eating. But that's what the Gemara is going to talk about. Here, right here, the Gemara comes in the issue about a half a day fast. Why is it not considered a half a day fast at least? That's what the Gemara starts off, and the Gemara is going to answer what everybody answered here, that because he He didn't accept that. That wasn't his fast day. His fast day is only for one day. He didn't make a 2-day fast. Amar of Yosef. So the Gemara is wondering, if Yosef is going to wonder how come he doesn't say Anenu on the next day if he continued fasting. What does Rav Huna hold? It says he doesn't say Anenu on the next day. Maybe he holds there's no such thing as a half-a-day fast. The word Musan L'Shos means, we'll see the details tomorrow. We don't know enough today. But there's going to be a circuit called Musan L'Shos. That's such a thing as a fast for hours. It means it's not a whole day fast. It's a partial fast. So either he holds no such thing. That's why he doesn't fast on the next day, because it's only a partial fast. He does hold there is such thing as a partial fast. But on a partial fast, you don't say Anenu. Those are the two choices. The fact that he says that you can't, the person who continues fasting into the next day, he can't say Anenu, either because there's no such thing as making a partial fast. The second day is already the partial fast. He didn't fast. Or even there is such thing as a partial fast, but you don't say, it doesn't justify saying Anenu. So now Abai's going to say, well, we said over here. No, none of those two choices. Lolam Kasavar, Vuna, Misam L'Shos. And also Misam L'Shos, Mispal Filas and Antinus. He could say there is such thing as a partial fast, and he called that a partial fast to say Anenu. How come here he doesn't say Anenu? Shani Yachadika shows the Lily of the Lokibul Alem Mekara. He never accepted upon himself that the following night to be part of the fast. So that's the problem in the Kabbalah, that he only have a fast if he made a Kabbalah, if he was accepted upon himself. He accepted upon himself the first day, but once it's night, that was not included in his Kabbalah, and he never accepted it. And like, if he would have accepted it on the fast day, for the next day, okay, so he made 2 days, but he didn't do that either. So the reason why here it's not considered a fast is I'm not eating. It's not considered a fast day. The Gemara continues with this. We'll go a little bit further. Mar Ukva, Ikva Ginzik. Mar Ukva came to the place called Ginzik, and they asked him a couple of questions. Ba'omine, Misanan L'Shos, Ein Misanan L'Shos. Is there such thing as a partial fast? So he didn't know. Never be other. He didn't know the answer. That's what the Gemara is going to come back to. That's our subject. But Agav, the Gemara tells us another 2 questions that they asked, and he also didn't know the answers to any of the questions. Jugs of goyim. The problem is that they put wine into it. Are they mutter or aser? Are you allowed to use them? Or do you say that the wine of the goyim is absorbed into the jugs and you're not allowed to use them? You have to kasher them. Or is it possible to kasher? So let it be other. He didn't know that either. And the third question they asked, during the 7 days of the inauguration of the Mishkan, so Moshe was doing the avodah in Parshas Tzav. Over there it says that Moshe did the avodah for 7 days, and then Parshas Shmini, then Moshe told down Kaval HaMizbeach. Then Aaron started doing the avodah on the 8th day of the Milun. But on the 7 days, Moshe did the avodah. So the question was, what did he wear? Which clothing did he wear? The Kohen Gadol, the Kohen has to wear the big dekuna. The Kohen Gadol, the big dekuna, Kohen Gadol. What did Moshe Rabbeinu wear during the Shivas Milun? Also, they didn't know. So he asked him 3 questions. He didn't know anything. So Azal B'Shal the Beit Midrash, he came and he asked in the Beis Medrash these 3 questions. They asked 3 questions. The first question was, is there such a thing as a partial fast? So he didn't know, but they said yes, there was such a thing, and also he said Anenu, which was what the Gemara said before. Abai said that even if Huna could hold like that, over there's only a technical problem. He didn't make the Kabbalah. But if they would have made a Kabbalah, there's such a thing as a partial fast. And the second question, that after they've been left around for 12 months, so then whatever is absorbed inside them, they got evaporated already, or it became nifkam, and you're allowed to use it. And maybe we'll see some more halachas about that. And what did Moshe serve in the Mishkan for the 7 days of inauguration? Not with a big dekuna, but chaluk lavan, with a white garment. Chaluk lavan, white, but not big dekuna. And the water says one more thing. He says that it was a white garment that didn't have any hem. That the Gemara talks about by Shkol. We learned in Shkol when the Kohen goes in, when the person goes into Lishka to get the coins from the Shkolim, so he goes off in a way that no one should suspect him that he took money. So he goes without a hem. He takes a bag. If it doesn't have a hem, people shouldn't suspect him. So here the Gemara might be the same thing. Eno Imra doesn't have a hem, and no one should be choshen he took any money that he shouldn't have taken. Like you're supposed to stay away from chashan.
The Rav Moshe Rabbeinu had a white garment, but it was not a big day.
It wasn't big day. It wasn't
but
big
it was
day.
linen.
It doesn't say that either. It just says chaluk lavan, a white garment, a white robe. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. I don't know. They know. Could be. I'm not saying that. I didn't see Rashi over here. Does Rashi say? Rashi does. They got it from Rashi. Chaluk Laban Shal Pishtim. Rashi says that. I don't know why Rashi says that. Rashi does say that. 3 lines from the bottom.
But the story is making my work look very, very bad.
He didn't know. Like he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't
It's
know.
like 3.
Okay, he didn't know. Yeah.
But even though it was Pishtan, it was not the big good.
Right. It was not Big Day Corner. Right. It was not Big Day Corner.
Okay.
Okay, that's the Gemara for today. And what do we have? Just to sum it up. First, some things about being mishtatif for the tzibur. First, it was health or financial advice that a person going on the road should not eat, either because it's not good for digestion or because he might not have food down the road. Next thing, the Gemara says that a person should not eat, even if he has food. He should hunger himself during a fast, during a famine, and he'll be safe from Misa Mashuna. Rishlaka said that a person should not have relations during the famine, and he brings the pasuk of Yosef. Taisha says maybe it's only this Chasidus. Chasuch people that don't have children, they could. When Am Yisrael is B'tzar, when a person separates himself, so then the Malachim will escort him, they curse him, and the person who goes into his privacy and he eats, it brings the psukim about Chil Hashem, that it's not going to be forgiven until he dies. After that, the Gemara says the person, the Brisa continues, he should join the Tzibur by Moshe, like Moshe Rabbeinu, that he didn't take a cushion to sit under, and a person who does join the Tzibur is going to be Zocha to see the Nacham of the Tzibur. And then when a person says, who's going to see me? Nobody sees me. So it says the walls and the Malachim and that escort him, and there's the Neshama, and there's Evarim, and he himself is going to also admit it, and he's going to sign. And a person's a very scary point that it says that a person's whole life is spelled out before him, and he's going to sign on it. And then there's this machlokes between Shmuel and Abu Lazar. If a person who fasts, a voluntary fast, is a commendable or not. Shmuel says it's a chote. Abu Lazar says if he could tolerate it, then it's commendable, it's kadosh. Rishlaka says even a chassid. But they also agree that if he can't tolerate it, so then it's not a good thing. B'kibbutz kadosh, a person is supposed to take care of his body. Then a Talmud Chacham, Shuatzov Rabbanan should not fast. And then the Gemara says something about Ein Tanya Tzibur B'Bavel. All the Tanaisim it says in the Mishnah. So in Bavel doesn't apply the Chamuros, only by Tisha B'Av, but otherwise it's not a severe fast. And the reason, some portions say because there's water over there, they don't need the rain, it's not fatal. And some say because there's no Nasi who could make the authority to make Gzer on the Tzibur. And then the Gemara started about the Yachid who accepted upon himself for Tainus Yachid. So even though he ate the whole night, he does say Anenu in the morning or the next day, even though he ate recently. And the opposite, he goes into the fast to the next day, even though he's very hungry, he doesn't say Anenu. And the Gemara comes out, the reason is because he didn't make a Kabbalah, he didn't accept upon himself the day before. And the Gemara comes into the subject about a partial fast, and issue is there such thing as a partial fast, and do you say Anenu? And the Gemara comes out so far, yes, there is such a thing as a partial fast, and you do say Anenu, but we have to see more tomorrow about that. Agav, the Gemara brings down 2 things about Ukfa that he didn't know, and that's Kankanim Shalmach after 12 months is mutter, and the other one is that it wasn't cooked. It was just means that the wine was in these jugs, so it becomes mutter after 12 months. And Moshe, during the Shiva Samayim Miluim, he didn't wear big day kahuna, but he wore a white cloak. Yeshikar. Thank you. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or 7 minutes.
Is this the pier?
This is it,
I wanted
yes.
to take a picture if I could of the
I'm
front
trying to
page,
cover
so I
it.
know I'd like to get a copy.
I don't know if it's
It's available.
available, but
Oh, well, let's see.